Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Tonight I'd like to honour and acknowledge the people of the major town in my electorate of Indi, the people of Wodonga. My connection with Wodonga goes back a long way, and tonight I'd briefly like to talk about my personal connection and commitment, some of the statistics about this great town, some of the challenges that it faces, and some of the opportunities that it's also presented. But in talking about Wodonga, I always start with my grandmother. So my grandmother was born at the turn of the last century, and her father worked in the Australia Post, or in the olden days, and his job was to get on the train in Wodonga, go down to Melbourne and sort the mail on the way through. And one of the fascinating things about having a history that goes back that far is Grandpa would tell stories of the Kelly Gang and the things that used to happen in Glenrowan. So that was the great-greats. And in closer periods to my own connection, my father was actively involved in the Albury-Wodonga Development Corporation when we had the visionary growth that Mr Whitlam outlined for rural and regional Australia, to actually invest in these beautiful country centres and see if we could make a go. And certainly Albury-Wodonga Development Corporation and the cities we have now are a huge testament to that vision. And I come to this parliament and often wish we could have the same visionary leadership for rural and regional Australia. So I grew up in the shadows of the Albury-Wodonga Development Corporation and the aspirations and the vision and the planning that went with it, and I'm now grateful for that work. So some of the statistics about Wodonga that make for interesting reading. It's Victoria's fastest growing regional centre with an average growth rate of around 2% per annum. The medium age is young by Victorian standards. Its medium age is 35. We've got 16.5% of the population are engaged in manufacturing. So Wodonga still has a really vital, strong manufacturing industry base, which it holds on to fiercely. So it's a great place to live, and it's got a fantastic vibe to it. Some of the things that I particularly love about Wodonga is it's right in the heart of the Murray Valley. So it's surrounded by hills. We've got the beautiful Murray River and the Wodonga Creek running through. We've got the Hume Weir. We've got opportunities for bike riding, horse riding, walking. There's no shortage of things to do, including the Hume Weir and surrounding towns. There's fantastic services. Service clubs are strong and vibrant. There are neighbourhood houses in most of the communities. There are active churches. There's so many groups and groups to participate in. There's great sporting facilities. We've got the access to international and local and state transport through the Albury Airport and the Hume Highway and the train line that goes right through the area. But it's not without its challenges, I have to say. One of the big issues that we're looking at is long-term jobs, to keep growing the manufacturing that's Albury-Wodonga. And one of the specialist areas that one of the things that we really need to look at is long-term and how we get the specialist service, the specialist jobs and the people with the specialist skills to come and live in regional Australia. There's an interesting statistic that the health services say that 70% of the jobs in Albury-Wodonga Health require a tertiary education. And we don't provide that education locally, so we've got to get them from Melbourne or Sydney or Adelaide. So one of the huge things we've got to do is actually make sure that we've got higher education opportunities, providing specialist professions in the regions. Many people don't want to go away to the cities. They actually want to stay locally and get the training that we can provide. So we've got the two universities, La Trobe and CSU, and we've got TAFE, but we just don't seem to have, to me, the critical mass that we need to be able to provide all the workforce that we need. Another big area is sports development. As the population continues to grow, we've got to do work with Barranduda Fields. We've got to actually grow large-scale sporting facilities in the new communities. Wodonga Racing Club is working in developing its facilities, and it needs support. But it's infrastructure. It's the train that goes between Melbourne and Sydney that really needs work. Not only V-Line, the train, but also the railway, ARTC, got huge problems with our track. But in closing, I'd like tonight to particularly congratulate the leadership team that runs Wodonga. Our Mayor, Anna Speedy, congratulations on your election. Patience Harrington, CEO. You do a fantastic job, and I'm very proud to be in this House and represent you. And I'm looking forward to addressing these challenges in the coming years, showcasing Wodonga and really helping this community reach its